Russ Feingold.
It is great to see all of you here today, fired up and ready to vote. I want to thank Jesse. You really did a terrific job putting that together, and all the leadership here, the UW-L College Democrats. This is exactly what's going to put us over the top. Your kind of activism, your kind of commitment. Thank you. I want to thank you. After I just heard that, I want to take you on the road, okay? I want that introduction everywhere.
The 2-year-old.
All right, so bring the 2-year-old. By all means, we'll have a good time. You're a wonderful representative, a wonderful person, and she's been so good to me as we fought these political battles. And of course, I want to recognize Congressman Kind for his leadership in southwestern Wisconsin. He can't be here today, but he does send his regards to you. I want to thank Chancellor Gao for joining us today. Joe, I know that's what they call you on campus. You are a charismatic, excellent chancellor here, and thank you for your great leadership on this campus. Thanks to changes in the law since the year 2000, early voting is easy, and that's how it should be. Best of all, it means that you don't have to wait until November 2nd to cast your ballot. If you like doing it that day, fine. But if you want to get it done and to be able to help other people get to the polls, you can do it today. You can make a difference today. We want to get as many people as possible to vote now as we can. And it is as easy as going down to the city clerk's office today after this rally to have your voice heard in this election. If you haven't registered, you just register on the spot. It doesn't take very long, then they hand you a ballot. You vote right there, put it away, and they send it over to the poll place on the night of the election. It is as simple as that. And we've done it all over the state already. We had people go and vote, and already thousands of people that have voted. You can use your student ID to prove your residency if you live in campus housing, or show a utility bill or something else with your name and address. And you can vote. You can even have a registered voter vouch for you at the polling place. So you don't need to, it is not at all difficult to do that. The fact that you're taking the time to vote today will make a difference in this election. It won't be people, only the people spending their personal fortune on ads, as you mentioned, or the $2 million in hidden corporate money that has come in from out of state to attack me, to try to tell you to vote for my opponent or against me. And I want to tell you something. You notice that he's had 2 million plus of those ads. I haven't had a single one, because I specifically asked him to keep on the table. We vote and do our own elections here. We don't do television ads from outside. In the end, of course, this is about you. Showing up today means that the idea of this enthusiasm gap on our side is a figment of the Republicans' imagination. I don't see an enthusiasm gap here. You? I do not see that. Everywhere I go, people are doing that.
For your service.
Thank you. And I didn't see an enthusiasm gap in Madison a few days ago. When President Obama came there, 26,000 people, the largest crowd at that point in the history of his presidency. The President said we can't sit this one out. We can't let this country fall backwards because the rest of us didn't care enough to fight. He said the stakes are too high for that, and we all know how right he is. Right now, as I've tried to show on television using various images, the Republicans and Ron Johnson are already dancing in the end zone. They think they've already got it all wrapped up. But don't you think it's a little early for a victory dance? I do. We can't hand the country back to the Republicans who got us into this mess in the first place. These are, in fact, as you mentioned in the introduction, the folks who support the trade agreements that have sent tens of thousands of Wisconsin jobs overseas. Tens of thousands Wisconsin jobs, not to mention the millions nationally. As a matter of fact, my opponent very calmly says, hey, these are dislocations. He calls them creative destruction. Well, I think it's just plain destructive. Destructive to our families, destructive to our communities, destructive to our nation. And that's why I have opposed these agreements like NAFTA and GATT. I led the charge against the China deal. They give Wisconsin workers a raw deal. You know, the Republicans, apparently led by my opponent, are the ones who want to just completely repeal that health insurance reform law after all the work and effort to finally beat the insurance industry. You know, they blocked the patient's Bill of Rights forever. We put it in this bill, and now it's the law of the land. They want to go back to when an insurance company could deny a child health care if they had a pre-existing condition. There's over 1 million Wisconsinites that have a pre-existing condition. Got to be one in every family. We finally beat him. He wants to reverse that. They want to reverse the elimination of lifetime limits. You know, if you have an illness that is ongoing, you run up against that limit, you're stuck. They can cut you off. No longer. No longer under this bill. It can't be done anymore. I know something about this one, even though my daughter went to the arch rival Eau Claire. And the other one went to Madison. I'll recognize this as one of the great campuses too. When those girls turned 22, 23, you know, we couldn't cover them on our health plan anymore. And, you know, I was fortunate enough, we're certainly not well-to-do, I'm not one of the 69 millionaires in the U.S. Senate, but we were able to put our resources together to help out during that period. But at this time in particular, a lot of you guys are doing great in college, and you're going to graduate, and you're not going to have the easiest time getting a job. You got to make a rent payment. You got to make a car payment maybe. You got to get to work. The last thing you need is to have Ron Johnson win and repeal your right to be covered under your parents' insurance. That's what he will do. That's what he will do. Got to fight for that. You got to fight for it. You got to vote. You got to fight for it every day. You got to keep those student loan changes. You want to keep those Pell Grant changes. He said he wants to wipe out the entire Obama agenda. He wants it all wiped out. Those things will be taken away, and of course, Mr. Johnson and the Republicans want to go back to the big tax cuts for the wealthy. That's going to cost this country over the next 10 years $700 billion. And he says he cares about the deficit. They want the big corporate interest to call the shots in Washington. You ever wonder why we have a deficit in this country? All you got to do is really look at the corporate interests putting their hand in the government's pocket all the time. They are the ones that are responsible for so much of irresponsible spending. The corporate interests, the Wall Street lobbyists, want to pull the strings, and too often that's exactly what they do. But not everyone just rolls over and gives over into what they want. I like to think of myself as a distant descendant, politically, of a great senator, fighting Bob LaFollette. Robert M. LaFollette. He took on the corporate interest in the 19th and early 20th century. I was brought up in my family to revere him and that Wisconsin independent tradition of saying, whoever the big corporate interests are, whoever's running them, Democrats, Republicans, or anybody, we take him on. And sir, there was a survey recently where they asked a number of questions. Who's the meanest senator? Who's the Jim Rat? Who's the hottest senator? And all. I was not on any of these. But I was on one of them. They asked, of all 100 senators, who was the #1 enemy of Washington lobbyists? I wasn't number 2, I wasn't number 3, I was the #1 enemy. The entire United States Senate. On your behalf, I stand up to corporate power in Washington. And I think the people who go to the polls will know who's on their side and who got us into this mess in the first place. So in this election, obviously, as Jen said, we'll be outspent, but we'll never be outorganized. This Senate seat can't be bought. It has to be earned. Together we can prove that the working men and women of Wisconsin will never let the corporate special interests silence their voice in Washington. We can win this election. And we can move Wisconsin forward. And that starts today, right now, with all of you. Vote today. Thank you so very much for having me.